down the table, you go back to the left side of the table, you go down, and then you see a table that is called direct influence here. Okay? Direct influence and direct dependence, right? Okay, if you look, for example, at rubber attractiveness, the first one, its direct influence is 4. So compared to the average, it's 4 compared to 4.54. So if you divide 4 by 4.54, you find the number that is here, it's 0.88. This is the number that is used for the graph to put it on the influence level. And you do the same here, okay? Still rubber attractiveness, it has 11 in terms of dependence. And if you compare to the average dependence in the system, which is again 4.54, then this factor is 2.42 times more dependent than the others. So this means that the coordinates of attractiveness is influence 0.88 and dependence 242. So now you go to the table, the variables direct strength graph, and if you look at the right side, you will find rubber attractiveness here, okay? And you look at the coordinates according to the axis. In terms of dependence, it's a little bit below 2.5. It's normal because the coordinate was 2.42. And in terms of influence, it's a little bit below 1 because the coordinate was 0.88. So the point here, attractiveness here, has coordinates that are 0.88 in influence and 2.42 in dependence. So this is what we have calculated, right? You see how it comes now? The relationship between the place of the driving force, of the factor of change in the table, it comes from the calculation that I've just done with you. Is that clear? No? Okay, you see here, it's here, it says the value is 242 and 0.88. So 242 is here and 0.88 is here. Go back to the first worksheet where we have the variables influence here. Go back here and you can see 242 and 0.88. Those are the two coordinates of attractiveness that we can see that is plotted in the graph, right? So this is how, from the matrix, from the table that we have here, we calculate for each factor of change how strong, or how dependent, and how influenced they are compared to the average. We compare to the average just to make sure that everything can fit in the graph. Okay, that we have a graph that shows everything, right? So all what you find in the graph is based on this table here for the direct one, and all you find for the indirect graph is based on the result that you have if you go to the variables total influence, this one here. Okay. Here you have this table, which is the matricial calculation, and when you go down here, you find the same thing. Rubber attractiveness is 1.2 and it's 2.5. So the same calculation happened. So when you go to the indirect graph, rubber attractiveness now is 1.2, so it's a little bit above the average, and it's 2.5 is here. So same calculation. The location of the factor of change in the graph is based on the coordinates that we have taken from the values that you have given to each of these factor of change during the analysis. Okay? Is it clear now? Just to see how it works?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what we want to do is to select from our tables and from our graph what we call the driving forces. The driving forces being the factors of change which are the most influent, so very high in the graph, and with a low dependence, so as much as possible to the left side of the graph. Okay? So when we go to the direct strength graph, we see that we have one here which is type of holding. We have one here which is labor supply. So I will highlight them. Okay, so we have one here. Like this, okay? Slash 0. So we have one here. Another one which is quite high is this one, labor supply. Then we may also consider, but we are going down now in terms of influence. We are reducing the level of influence. Here we are more than 3. Here we are about 2. Here the downstream chain is here. Okay, and we have also Control C, Control V, the political. Okay, the political capacity, right? As a starting point. You remember we said take them from the left side and upper side. Now let's take a look at the indirect one, because we would like to see if, because they have an indirect influence, and if their influence is growing in the time, maybe we can take some of them in this in our analysis. So we go to the next one, which is the variable indirect strength graph, and what we see, we still have. We still have the type.
Sélectionne le cadre.
Voilà. We still have this one. Labor supply, we still have it, so I keep it in the same color. Okay. The downstream policy has gone a little bit more to the right side. The political capacity is still there, so we will keep it. Okay, okay. But what happens? Is there something that you see that is happening? There is something interesting here. Exactly. Here, the national investment, I will put it in another color. Okay. Here, the national investment. Where was the national investment before? Before, national investment was here, and now it has moved close. It has gone higher. Its influence was about 2, and now it's more than 2.5. So in the time, national investment has an influence over time. You see, so it could be interesting to use it as a factor that we take into consideration as a driving force, because we see that in terms of indirect influence, it's getting bigger, more stronger. You see the point, right? Okay. What else do we see? The plantation policy was here at 1.5, and now it's still there, but a bit higher. So what we could do is, we see that there is the downstream, the value chain policy and the plantation policy together, which are close together. So one thing that we could do is to combine them into a rubber system policy support that includes both the activities related with plantation and the activities of the rubber value chain, knowing that when we define the rubber value chain, we excluded plantation. So if we put them together, we can have one composite factor of change that could become a driving force, because they are quite influenced, both of them. So that could be a possibility in order to have five driving forces. I will suggest for this exercise here that we don't use more than 5 driving forces, because the purpose of this training is not to do the perfect exercise in terms of content, it's to do the perfect exercise instead of how to facilitate it and make it happening. So it's better to use and work on five driving forces than using 7 or 8, which will press you to do the work and maybe not doing it as nicely as it should be done. So my advice what we will do is that we will take these driving forces, the type of holding, natural investment, labor supply, political capacity, and the combination. So I will put it like this, and combining together, and I will put it in another color. Where is it?
Ah, c'était devant.
Ah. Format de la forme. Ok. Contour, we put in green, okay, like this, and I will just move it. Okay. Okay. So that would be this is what we are going to take with us. Now, an important thing when you're facilitating, we have to make sure that as much as possible, the different driving forces and factors that we select in order to use them as driving forces are sufficiently diverse so that we can see a different possibility. So we use the STEEP, and remember the social, technical, economic, environmental policy. So here, the national investment is an economic one. Okay, labor supply is some kind of social, economic, downstream policy, the chain and plantation policy, it's the political dimension. So we have already 3. The political capacity is more a social dimension. So we have 4. And the type of holding is there is a kind of a technical dimension, not only technical, but there is also technical dimension in this. So we do not have environmental dimension, but it's not a problem because if you remember well, we had very limited, we didn't have so many environmental factors, and apparently the environmental factors are not really the driving forces of the future of labor in terms of